The city never truly slept, it only whispered. Even at 2 in the morning, neon lights bled across the wet asphalt and buses rattled through the narrow streets as though they were late for something important. In a third-floor apartment tucked between a tailor shop and an electronics repair store lived a 16-year-old boy named Saad. He had dreams far too big for a room far too small, and yet he guarded those dreams the way a soldier guards his only weapon, because he knew one day they would be needed. Saad's father had once been a translator. People said he could make 3 languages dance together with nothing but a pen and patience. But after an unexpected stroke, half his body refused to cooperate and words became a battlefield he couldn't always win. The hospital swallowed most of the family's savings. Bills arrived like wolves, and after a while the electricity company learned to recognize their address. Lights flickered often, and when they died completely, candles filled the room like stubborn stars. Saad refused to complain. If the universe was a harsh master, then he would simply outwork it until it felt ashamed. Every morning before school, he practiced English and Chinese phrases on his cracked phone screen. At night he hunted for gigs, small translations, subtitling, anything that paid enough to buy medication and rent and maybe a smile from his mother. But the market didn't care about 16-year-olds with talent. It cared about certificates and degrees and verifying that your dreams were stamped with official ink. Still, Saad persisted. Not because he believed it was easy, but because he believed the alternative was worse. One evening, rain hammered the rooftops like impatient fingers. The city traffic thinned and even the stray cats vanished beneath plastic awnings. Saad sat with his notebook open, practicing tonal variations in Chinese that YouTube videos insisted were crucial. A coughing fit shook the apartment from the bedroom. His father's medication had run out 2 days earlier. His mother tried mixing herbal teas and prayers, but both failed to hide the fear. "We'll get the medicine tomorrow," Saad whispered to himself, as though speaking it could make it true. All he needed was a job, just one. It arrived on a Tuesday. A man in a navy suit stepped out of a black car near the tailor shop downstairs. He was taller than most people, with hair streaked silver and a pair of sunglasses so expensive they looked bored. The tailor, an elderly man known for his silence, bowed more than usual. That alone was enough to gather attention. Everyone whispered that the man was a foreign investor who bought entire buildings the way other men bought sandwiches. His name was Mr. Rosen. Rumor claimed he had become a millionaire before he learned how to shave. Some said he owned land in 4 countries, others insisted he owned time itself because no one else seemed able to afford so much of it. Days passed and Rosen visited the tailor shop repeatedly, fitting and refitting suits for a gala. One afternoon, as Saad returned from school, he overheard Rosen arguing with someone over the phone. The voice on the other end spoke Chinese. Rosen's face tightened. Rich men rarely tolerate defeat, especially not linguistic defeat. When he ended the call, Rosen muttered, "If I could find someone who speaks that damned language." Saad froze. His pulse thudded. Opportunity didn't knock, it whispered. He stepped forward. "Sir. I can translate Chinese." Rosen turned slowly, as though debating whether a teenager could be real or just another city hallucination. "You?" He chuckled, the type of laugh men use when they believe the universe exists to amuse them. "Kid, translation is for professionals." "I can do it professionally," Saad replied without blinking. Confidence is a currency, and Saad spent it without hesitation. Rosen smirked. "How much would you charge, then?" $2. $500, Saad said. The tailor inhaled sharply. Even the sewing machine paused, as though embarrassed by the number. Rosen laughed outright this time, deep, mocking, expensive laughter. $500? Do you know what professionals charge? Yes, Saad answered. And I know what I'm worth. For a moment the room tilted. Rich men rarely hear that sentence outside boardrooms. Rosen's laughter died slowly. "Fine," he said at last. Translate something for me right now. If you mess up, you leave and never bother me again. He unlocked his phone and played a clip, two Chinese businessmen discussing delivery routes and customs paperwork. It was rapid, laced with dialect and industry jargon. Rosen watched Saad's face with the same curiosity one might use on a puzzle box, amused at first, then cautious. Saad listened once. Then again, slower. He translated line for line, his voice steady, pronunciation sharp, terms precise. When he reached the end, he even clarified the implied meaning behind one of the phrases, because sometimes the truth lives between the words, not inside them. Silence filled the shop. The tailor stared at Saad as if seeing a second moon. Rosen leaned forward, glasses slipping down his nose. Where did you learn that? He asked. Online, Saad said. And from my father. Rosen didn't laugh this time. A phone buzzed. Another Chinese voice. Rosen hesitated, then handed it to Saad. Translate, he ordered. Saad did. Faster. Cleaner. The caller requested negotiations for a shipment deal. When Saad translated the closing statement, Rosen's face flickered, not anger, not disbelief, something sharper. Respect, the rarest currency of all. When the call ended, Rosen tapped the phone against his palm. 500, he repeated quietly. You're serious? Yes, Saad said. Rosen studied him. Why? Because my father needs medicine, the boy answered. He didn't embellish, truth doesn't need decoration. And because if I don't believe I'm worth 500, no one else ever will. Something shifted. The walls of the tailor shop felt suddenly too small for both ambition and wealth to stand in the same space. Rosen finally extended his hand. You have a deal, for the negotiation tomorrow. If you do well, 500 is nothing. Saad nodded. His mother once said that opportunities rarely come wrapped like gifts, they come disguised as storms, arguments, and impossible numbers. The next day arrived like a test. Saad polished his shoes, gelled his hair, and borrowed his father's old leather notebook, its pages filled with translations, grammar rules, and small fragments of wisdom written before illness claimed his hand. The negotiation took place in a glass-walled office 30 floors above the city. It smelled of coffee, ambition, and expensive pens. Two Chinese executives sat at the far end of the table, adjusting their watches and whispering. Rosen introduced Saad with a wave, casual, dismissive, as though hiring a teenage translator were nothing unusual. When the meeting began, language transformed into a war of precision.